listening to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. It's been a circuitous journey for Robert Austin Cox, getting from being a self-help magazine writer to publisher of The Palace, but an interesting and spiritual one at that. One he hopes will inspire all of us. All right, where do we begin, Robert?
I did have some interest in becoming a sports writer when my dream of becoming a baseball player didn't, that bubble burst.
Oh, bummer. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that's okay. And then that just kind of incubated for a while. And then when I got into my mid-30s, I decided I wanted to start a magazine that was self-improvement based. So I called it Good News, and then I would write columns and articles about things that I would experience in life and the challenges I faced and what I learned and how I was able to overcome certain things.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I did the same thing years later. I started up Go For It magazine and spent 12 years doing that. So all in all, 16 years of writing short stories mainly, but real true stories about things that I had experienced or observed other people experiencing and how they overcame things.
And now you've made the leap to publishing.
Yeah.
So how'd that happen?
Well, that's an interesting story because my stepdaughter suggested that I write a book after we talked about my dream of becoming a life coach. One of the things that I've really enjoyed is helping people I love that are going through some sort of pain or suffering and try to help them figure a way out. So I actually thrive on people who share their intimate problems and, challenges with me. And so she suggested that I write a book, and I was opposed to it at first because of the timing. I was just about ready to take a trip and celebrate my get out of debt moment. I paid off all my credit cards. I paid off my truck. I paid off my car. And I was just wanting to chill out and enjoy some downtime. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, she's right. And then the idea of the palace came back to me. It was an idea that I threw out years earlier in one of my magazines. And I did a lot of writing on that 10-day trip that I took. And it just took off. And what's cool about the book is I didn't even know how it was going to go from basically chapter to chapter. A lot of it just kind of unfolded very organically as I would think about it. And, sometimes days or weeks would go by and I wouldn't do anything. And then I'd get an inspiration and then just start writing like crazy as fast as I could.
Well, okay, so we're talking about an average guy recruited by a committee in Tibet, responsible for overseeing a palace overrun by war-torn refugees fleeing Russian aggression.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
Well, that idea was based a lot on what's happening with Russia and Ukraine and Putin's insatiable appetite to recapture those lost republics after the Soviet Union. And I'm supposing that there's a lot of people that are like-minded from that old Soviet mindset of wanting all that area because they were invaded twice in World War I and World War II by Germany. And they wanted that buffer zone. And so they've got that going on. They want to recapture the glory of the Soviet Union. And so that was part of my thinking. And then the other part was just finding a palace somewhere that really resonated with me, that was around the world, that refugees would actually take refuge in. And the Patala Palace was actually an ideal choice because I've always had an interest in Buddhism, and that's basically the Mecca of Buddhism right there.
So the palace, this is a metaphor. This book is a metaphor for the, toxic thoughts that we all, have in our mind, right?
Right, exactly. And I think the key is to treat your mind like a palace instead of like a crack house where you got open doors and people are coming and going and you have all this chaos going on. And it's similar for the mind. If you just allow thoughts to just enter your mind and you actually say, these are my thoughts, now you own them. They're like in-laws that have just intruded your space and you can't get rid of them. And so what you want to do is you want to be wise and thoughtful with the thoughts that come to you and treat them like a visitor would be coming to your home. And if they're respectful and courteous, then you allow them in. But if they're not, then you've got to find a way to stand your ground and prevent those from coming in and creating more disharmony and chaos in your mind.
Is this a golden nugget of unconventional wisdom that we will find in your book?
Yeah, this is the basically the core principle, but there's a lot of others. One that just really jumps out at me is what I call the 1090 rule. I don't know if I heard it from somebody or if I created it on my own, but basically what I've found is most people that are really unhappy oftentimes are very intelligent people, but they spend the majority of their time analyzing the problem, worrying about the problem, but not really doing anything to resolve it. With the 1090 rule, it's take 10% of your time to look at the problem, to understand it and figure it out, and then spend 90% of your time and energy actually doing something to make it better. And if you practice that principle, your life will get infinitely better.
Do you give us examples?
Yes, I did. There's several in there. A lot of the book is nonfiction. It's based on my own personal experiences and some of the challenges and traumas that I've faced in my life and incorporating certain principles. For me, forgiveness was a huge one. When I was in my first marriage, my wife had an affair and I was devastated. And I realized I was just starting my first self-improvement magazine, which was good news. And I knew that I couldn't stay in a state of misery forever. I had to figure a way to get out of it. And so I practiced the 1090 rule and really focused on what's the answer here. And I knew the answer would have to be I'd have to forgive, not just from my head, but really from my heart. So I actually had a visualization of her coming to the door in a bathrobe that I bought for her years earlier and telling her that I forgave her from my heart and I just want her to be happy. And later on in that day, I kept thinking about it. And then later on in the day, I approached her. I knocked on the door. She answered in the robe. And I said what I said, the same thing that I said just now. And she burst into tears, just like I envisioned. Like everything happened exactly as I visualized it. But it was that focus on what do I need to do to get out of these dark thoughts? Because I had, all kinds of dark and destructive thoughts that were going through my mind, none of which would have made my life better. It would have made my life and the lives of everyone around me a lot worse.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think's even more difficult?
What's that?
Forgiving yourself.
Yeah. A big part of this book is it's really about the concentration of it is be the best version of yourself. Because if you had to live with somebody and you were stuck with them 24/7 from the time you were born to the time you die, and you didn't like them, you didn't trust them, you didn't respect them, your life would be miserable. So there is one person that we're stuck with, and that is ourselves. And we can't escape our own truth. We know what the truth is. And so the other part of this book is about self-improvement. Look at the things honestly and objectively that you don't like about yourself, and then resolve to do something about it. For me, when I was a kid, I was told that I was selfish and self-centered, and I didn't like that about myself. But I thought, well, that's who I am. I'm stuck with it. Until later on, when I discovered the power of self-improvement, then I realized, wow, I can change these things. And Benjamin Franklin was a huge inspiration for me, because that's what he did in he wrote a diary or an almanac or something that talked about that, about those core principles that he wanted to incorporate in his own life. And he focused on those daily.
Because you had these magazines, then you have people that followed you, that read you. Are they people that you're reaching out to let them know about this book?
I've just been just going person by person. And so when I feel inspired to share it, I share it with them. A lot of my clients and, family members and friends. So I've just been trying to do it on a more intimate level.
This is kind of a life coach kind of a book.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I feel like with the metaphor of the palace, it's a great foundation for how I would start with a client. To say, hey,
Yes.
are you really more than just being aware of your thoughts? It's taking mindfulness to the next level. It's
Yes.
it's it's saying, yes, be aware of your thoughts, and then choose your thoughts wisely. And another part of that component is not all negative thoughts are bad. For example, if you feel like you're unprepared for an event that's about to take place, your subconscious may be telling you, hey, you haven't done enough homework. You're not ready for this. So before you go out and fall flat on your face, take these steps and get yourself ready, because this is going to come at you heavy and hard. So a lot of times people want to do the Pollyanna thing with positive thinking, and that's not my prescription for success. You want to take those negative thoughts on only when you're in the right frame of mind. You've got to be healthy and balanced. You can't be over hungry or overstressed or overtired, because you'll just take the situation and most likely make it a lot worse.
Right, right. Well, maybe this will be the basis. Maybe that life coach career is coming for you.
Yeah. I feel like it's on its way. So I just need to take a few extra steps and then go in that direction.
All right, Robert, thank you.
All right. You bet. Thank you so much for calling.
Robert Austin Cox, author of The Palace. Bernice Jackson Coffey read a lot as a child, and writing was just a natural progression. She was a teacher for many years, and that's what led her to write Character Building 911.
The book was inspired because I saw the need. I taught character education when I was a teacher for the last 15 years. And I saw that what the children needed, but the system wasn't offering that. And even before I started teaching, when I had fourth, fifth, and sixth grade for language arts, and the kids would want to talk to me. So if I got a chance, I would sit down with individual kids and just let them tell me what was going on in their lives. And that's basically what I've done. I do have a master's in counseling, so the kids didn't know that, of course, but I just use those skills with the children. So kids need somebody to talk to. They need some guidance on something, and values and morals, that's where they are really lacking.
Well, when you say character building, what exactly does that mean?
Well, character, the virtues, honesty, responsibility, those kinds of things. And I don't think our younger parents are teaching those things to our kids. I had to give a speech one time to a graduating class, kids graduating from preschool, right? My subject was things my mother taught me before I started kindergarten. Because our parents taught us these things at home before we went to school. So we knew how to sit in our seats and be quiet and raise our hands and be honest and not fight. But today's kids are not getting those values that we were taught at home. And basically, I wrote the book in a way so parents can use this book to talk to their children. They leave too much stuff to the schools. Our parents did not leave stuff to the schools. The schools taught us reading, writing, and arithmetic. But it came to living skills, our parents taught us those things. And so, like I said, with the questions and at the end of each one of my stories, if the parents will read the story with the child or the children and just ask them those questions, they'll be surprised at the answers the kids will give them.
Okay, so tell me how you lay out your book.
Okay, the first story I did is about this little boy. He was in the foster care system. And all schools nowadays have kids who are in the foster care system. And he was really nervous because every time he would change parents, foster parents, he had to go to another school. And he was upset about this because he was always a loner. But in this school, the teacher was so warm and caring. She took him to his seat. And the little boy next to him slid him a note that says, "Will you be on my team at recess time?" And this just made the little boy know this is going to be a better year. Just one little thing can change another person's life if we take time to do it. So it doesn't take much to make other people happy.
So then at the end of the book, what kind of questions are there?
This one is, have you ever felt like you were left out? Have you felt lonely? And have you ever helped somebody not to feel lonely?
Okay.
It's just showing how to be a friend. Doesn't take much to be a friend.
How many stories are in the book?
I have about 10 stories in the book.
And you're hoping that this book makes it into schools?
Yes. I have a nephew. He's in Wisconsin, and he saw the book. He's in administration. So he's having a meeting with his school board to see if they can get this book in all of their schools.
So this would be part of a character building class?
Yes. This would be. I created a whole program.
Now, that makes sense because you were a teacher.
Yes.
You're really lucky that you have someone that is close to you, directly involved in a school system, because otherwise, I talk to so many teachers that have so many great ideas that come up with, similar, projects. Maybe it's math-based or, geography-based, and, they have work study and they have sheets to fill out at the end and no way to get them into schools.
Well, I do have help, and I have been selling a lot of books on my own. Grandparents are really buying them for their grandkids. People are buying 3 and 4 books at a time because they see the need for this. And grandparents, we can all sometimes see that our kids are not raising their children the way we raised them, and they need a little help.
How are they finding out about the book?
Word of mouth, and it's on Amazon. And there's a little thing on YouTube about the book. So I put it on Facebook. They can go on YouTube and look. They can go on Amazon. Matter of fact, I understand that Amazon has sold out twice.
Good for you. But you think it's because there's a real need for this and there aren't a lot of books that are teaching character to children.
Right. I taught it for 15 years. I had to make my own curriculum. So what I did, I got different videos, I got different news articles, a TV show that may have taught something that I thought the kids would need. We'll watch that. But this book would be a whole program. For instance, at the very beginning of the book, I included the poem Myself by Edgar Albert Guest. And this is a poem that my mother taught me when I was a kid. I always had a great memory for memorizing poetry. And when I was teaching character ed, when my different classes came in, before they sat, they had to repeat this poem, Myself. It says, I have to live with myself, and so I want to be fit for myself to know. I want to be able, as days go by, always to look myself straight in the eye. I don't want to stand with the setting sun and hate myself for the things I've done. I don't want to keep on a closet shelf a lot of secrets about myself and fool myself as I come and go into thinking that nobody else will know the kind of person I really am. I don't want to dress myself up in sham. I want to go out with my head erect. I want to deserve all men's respect. But here in this struggle for fame and pelf, I want to be able to like myself. I don't want to think as I come and go that I'm bluster and bluff and empty show. I never can hide myself from me. I see what others may never see. I know what others may never know. I never can fool myself, and so whatever happens, I want to be self-respecting and conscience-free.
That is so great, Bernice.
And I'm trying to encourage the kids to talk to an adult. Whatever problems you have, talk to an adult. And I used to tell my third graders, go home and ask your mom and dad questions because parents really want you to know how smart they are. So just ask a lot of questions. And that's what they did, But kids have to be encouraged because some parents are not very encouraging when it comes to asking questions.
Right. Well, you've done a beautiful thing here, Bernice. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you. And the book I look at it every day because it's just a trophy for me. And my mom, when I first wrote my first 2 books, my mom was here to see it, but now she's gone. But she would love this book.
Yeah, it seems like it's getting out there.
It's getting out, yes. I just ordered another 100 copies.
great, Bernice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Bernice Jackson Coffey, author of Character Building 911. Allison Harcourt-Montgomery has not a single doubt that God exists, and she's got a book full of true stories to prove it. The name of her book, With You Till the End: How God's Intervening Love Miraculously Transforms Us Through the Power of Jesus Christ and His Holy Spirit. Give us some background on this, Allison.
Well, I am a former critical care nurse and nurse practitioner, and I really don't work in that capacity anymore. I went more into the business side of healthcare, and now I am a artist, writer, and I'm not going to say I'm retired. I'm going to say I'm just opening some options up in the future.
You're switching gears.
I'm switching gears, yes.
Have you ever written before? Were you the kind of kid that kept a journal?
No, I never kept a journal. I mean, I kind of was one of those kind of people where I kept a lot of stuff in my head, obviously, all these years worth of stuff. And one day it just needed to come out.
Did something in particular happen that made you say, I got to write about this? Not only do I have to write about it, but I got to publish a book.
Well, I have known for a very long time that I had to tell these stories, but I was so afraid of what people were going to think of me. I thought, if I tell these stories, people are going to think I've gone mad. They're going to think I am way out there. And I was afraid of what people might think. But finally, one day I decided, you know what? It's time to tell the stories. You have to. I mean, you just have to tell the stories. And the little saying where people say, you can't make it up, you can't make them up.
So give me an example of a story we'll find in your book.
So I was, it was like mid-February in the 1980s. And I was downtown one day going to the grocery store real quickly. I was going to grab a couple of items before I went to go pick up my husband at work. And it wasn't quite dark outside. And I had to park far away in the parking lot. So I got out of my car, went in, got a couple items, came back out. And when I did, I was at the door of my car and I put the key in the side, to unlock the car. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this man comes up from behind me and he puts a gun to the temple of my head. And he said, unlock the door. And I just froze. I literally froze. I couldn't even remember taking a breath. And he said, unlock the door. We're going for a ride. And I just didn't say anything. And it's true what they say about, how your life flashes before your eyes. And so I thought, oh no, I will never see anyone that I love again. This is crazy. So I'm just standing there and the guy's like, lady, unlock the door. And he goes, we're going for a ride. And I just thought, this is it. I'm done. And so I had my groceries in the left hand, my purse in the right hand on my shoulder, and my keys in my right hand, and my purse was on my shoulder. And all of a sudden, I just felt this peacefulness come over me. And then I heard these words audibly. It said, run, the gun's not loaded. And I just sat there for a second and I heard, run, the gun's not loaded. And so the guy starts yelling at me, calling me all these horrible names, saying, unlock the door. And I mean, I just dropped the purse, I dropped everything, and I tore out running towards the store. And when I turned around, I just knew he was going to shoot me in the back of the head or something. I turned around to look, and he was flailing around like he didn't know what to do.
Oh.
So I got inside the store, and obviously I was visibly shaken up. And so anyway, the police came, and I was there for like 2.5 hours or something. And they were saying to me that if I'd ever gotten in that car, that I would have never, ever been seen again, most likely. And so I was just thinking all the way as I was driving home at that point. There weren't any cell phones in the 80s, so obviously. So my husband was wondering where I was. And I was driving all the way home, shaking all the way. And all I could think about was I heard that voice. And I knew the voice wasn't from me. So it was my really a first big encounter with the Holy Spirit. And, only a loving Father in heaven can do something like that for us. And it stayed with me. And as I progressed throughout my life, The stories got bigger. The stories got stronger.
Wow.
It just kept happening. Yeah.
I can't imagine they got any bigger than that one, but
They did. I mean, there were just one after another after another. It was just amazing, this stuff, and it just kept happening. When I was very young, a little girl, we lived in the South, and it was like cold. It was like in late fall, and I was playing out on the porch, and I kept having visions of a rattlesnake that was coming on. I didn't know it was a rattlesnake. I just knew it was a snake that was going to be coming up on our brick front porch, which was quite long. And I kept going in the house and telling my mom, there's a snake coming. There's a snake coming. And my mom came outside and she's like, there's no snake. It's too cold. You're just playing. And then finally, I just kept saying, Mom, you got to come outside. And she was like, there's no snake out here. Now stop it, because I don't have time for you to be doing this. And she was trying to be all sweet about it. But I was like, Mama, please come outside. And so finally I went back in one more time and I was like, Mama, you have to come outside. And when she walked back outside, there was a long snake slithering on our front porch, making its way toward us. And my mom just yelled and told me, go get my father. I went inside the house and my dad came out. And of course, he got rid of the snake. And when it was all over, my mom said, how did you know that snake was coming? And I said, I don't know how I knew. I just knew it was coming. And so that's when it started, when I was very, very young. And then the stories just multiplied from there.
So you had a premonition, basically.
Oh, yeah. I had lots of premonitions and dreams and visions and all kinds of things. I think there were more warnings from God. He was just trying to tell me. And I'm not trying to profess myself as a psychic. I don't even believe in psychics. In fact, I have something in my book about it. But I do believe it was God, and he was giving me the warning. And I really didn't know what to do with them. It was like I was a little kid for a lot of it. And I was like, well, why am I dreaming these things? Like, what does this mean? And, there was just lots of trauma throughout my life. And all of those things were used to, I believe, turn me back to God and to make me go even deeper in him. And I kind of fought it off and on throughout my life. I was fighting with God. I would have like one foot in and then one foot out, because I still wanted to go live in the world and just, do everything my way. And finally, after enough occurrences, I was like, wow, okay. I mean, this is for real. There was just no way to make it up. You just couldn't make it up.
Did you ever find yourself in a position where you got a premonition or a vision or a dream and you ignored it and it didn't turn out so well?
There's a story in my book, a chapter in my book, where I had a vision dream, and it was so real. And a loved one had come to me and had kind of shown me what I thought was possibly like maybe what heaven would look like. I'm not saying that the person came back from the dead, so I don't want that mistaken. What I am saying is it was definitely a dream, but it wasn't a normal dream. It was what I call a vision dream, which means I remember every detail of it. It's extremely vivid. And so it was about a month before I was having some minor surgery. And when I went for that surgery, I should have listened. I should have postponed that surgery, but I didn't. I mean, it's okay now. It's okay now. But at the time, I just felt like, oh my gosh, like that's what that dream was about.
Do you think we all are capable of receiving these messages?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. When you have now, me personally, I believe they come from the Holy Spirit. And, and the reason I say that is because for the longest, people used to say, oh, you're just gifted, or you're this, or it's not about me. It's not about me, anything. It's all about God. And so I think when you know him, and you know him in the deepest way possible, he sends his Holy Spirit, and he speaks to each of us differently, however he wants to. That's what's so neat about it. He knows exactly what to say to each one of us so uniquely that you can't deny it. Like, it's him, because you're like, nobody else could have done this. It's just not possible. And so I think he does speak to everyone, yes. But we don't all listen. That's the difference. And there's a lot of that in the book where I'm just explaining from the tiniest ways to the most major ways that God has communicated with me. And he will do it for anybody that wants to talk to him. The message for the readers is believe in God and let him do for you what he wants to do, because it will be something far greater than you could ever even imagine in your own wildest dreams. And he will do it so uniquely. He will find the perfect paths. He will give you the most amazing people in your life. And you'll get the trials too. Don't get me wrong. You will get the trials. But the takeaway is he's with you through every step of it. And I hope that it really reaches a lot of people, because I believe a lot of people like me are out there and they need the book. They need to know that these little things that maybe they're ignoring, they're God. They're really God talking to them.
So what's next, Allison?
I mean, what I'm hoping to do first is get the book out, get it going, generate some interest. And then I'm going to probably be starting some sort of an online group or business or something like that where we can reach others. So I'm interested in hearing other people's stories, really interested.
That's a good idea. That might be your next book.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I'm trying to do is, build that community, and because I want to hear from people. That would be very interesting. Now, you hear a lot of weird stuff where it's not like from God. It's like from other spirits, but there are a lot of people who just have these amazing stories, and I'm ready to hear them.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Alice, you have been so sweet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Allison Harcourt-Montgomery, with you till the end. H. Craig Plantz has been in real estate since the early 90s and decided with his wealth of experience, he could provide a roadmap for agents young and old with his book, Systematic Approach, a step-by-step guide to a profitable real estate practice from license to brokerage. So I guess the most important question is, what sets your book apart from all the other real estate books out there?
Well, I started, I guess what sets mine apart is when I started in real estate, I was with one of the big normal brokerage firms. And, they had a certain way of doing things, but they also had a control factor in place, things I was allowed to do and wasn't allowed to do. And then out of sheer coincidence, in 1995, a couple of guys and myself, we started the first company in the country to take MLS listings and put them on the internet and then generate leads for brokers.
Oh, boy.
So that was Colorado Real Estate Online, corealty.com. And like I said, we started that in March of 1995 when the internet was brand new.
Right.
And over a 4-year period, I taught 80% of the real estate agents in Colorado how to utilize the internet for their business. And then Scripps Howard bought that company in 1999. Okay. And so I started my company, Resident Realty, in 2000. And I started it to, so I could basically operate the way I knew where the market was going and a different way than agents did. So uniquely, that background gives my book a little bit more guidance for agents who not only utilize the internet, but then the traditional means of generating business and maintaining a business as well.
So what's the biggest mistake a real estate guy makes?
Typically choosing the wrong brokerage. If they don't have a business plan in place, then they don't know how to choose a brokerage to facilitate what they're doing. So you can go to a lot of brokerages, and what people don't think about is they have to realize they're the business owner, not the brokerage. Brokerage just is paid by independent contractors who are real estate agents. So that real estate agent really needs to understand they're the driving factor, not the brokerage, and make sure that the brokerage provides them with the right tools and services that are going to match with how they've decided to operate their business.
In your book, do you give a for instance?
Oh, absolutely. I give them straightforward lists to follow. So when you choose a brokerage, you first have to know how you're going to operate your business. So we encourage making a business plan, and that business plan is going to tell you how many closings you need in a year to reach an income goal. And then we back it out from there. How many leads is it going to take? Where are you going to generate those leads from? How are you going to cultivate those leads? Are you going to build a team to help you to support that? So the book kind of outlines all those things, but it's individual to each agent. Every agent's in a different market. They're in a different price range. They're in a different part of the geography. So, and agents also have, what's the word I'm looking at? They have specific interests. So you may go to a gym every day, or you may be very involved in your church, or you may have some other type of organization that you do. And agents need to know how to leverage their sphere that they're in to build their business.
How are interest rates affecting the market right now? And how does an agent work around that?
Well, in every market, somebody's going to be buying and selling properties. That's first and foremost. The interest rates definitely have a big part in it. Now, keep in mind, we're talking 6.5% interest rates now. Just a few, 25, 30 years ago, they were over 10%. So, and people were able to do business and still did do business at the time. But we're in a slow time right now. However, I'm seeing a 3-month trend, and my numbers are pretty direct and pretty, between Arizona, Texas, and Colorado, but I've got well over 600 agents. So I can see the trend. And October and November have been up compared to October and November of last year in the number of transactions. Prices do seem to be falling slightly. I do expect that to happen a little bit more come spring. We think we'll get more activity, but the other thing that's happening is more and more properties are coming on the market now. So that means prices need to adjust to that. And if interest rates go down again, I think that will spur more buying. And they're talking, there's a possibility that happens this month.
I know so many people looking for houses, young people in their 30s. Yeah. Going out there, looking at a house, making an offer. Somebody else comes in with an offer. Somebody else comes in with another cash offer. Boom, it's gone. Like, that just seems to be out of control.
Yep, it is. And it's across the country. I mean, but you have pockets like in Arizona, they're up prices are up 30% over a 36-month period. So that's massive. So that's got to tame down. But a lot of that's due from people fleeing California, and this is the closest place for them to go, being in Arizona. Colorado, the market's a little slower. It's pretty interesting. Texas, the market is starting to pick back up, but it's been very slow. So it should turn around. Ultimately, it will turn around. I've never seen any time where a person bought a house and lost money on it in any 10-year span. So that's always something when someone says, should I buy now or should I buy later? You should always buy when you can buy, and you should just basically make sure that you're buying something you can afford. Right. And always have property. It's the best thing over a time period, in my opinion, to have real estate so that you can, when the market does turn around and does get bigger and stronger, you can reap those benefits. And it's one of the things that is a dual use investment. You get to live in it as well as let it be a financial investment.
All right. You said you oversee 600 agents?
Correct. In Colorado. Yeah. And then we have more in Texas and Arizona.
So do they have to buy this book?
Oh, no. We provide it to all of our agents.
What's your marketing plan here?
Right now, what we do is I do a lot of direct email marketing on a weekly basis, and I have been since I was in the .com business. So I have a pretty extensive email list, and people that are not with my company that are still interacting with me via email and via our different websites. Those people are who I market to. There's 1 million realtors in the United States, and there's 4 million real estate agents in the United States. And of course, that's always replenishing, people getting out on one end and a lot of people getting in on the other. So that's really where I like to focus it on, brand new agents. That way they don't make mistakes at the beginning and they build their business from the ground up. And there's a lot of, I don't know what you want to call them, a lot of people out there who think real estate agents make so much money and they try and skim money from them somehow from their commissions. And they always want you to sign these multiple month, if not a year or multiple year automatic monthly fees for a service they provide. So we try and outline in the book, let's determine what services you're going to need, and then let's choose a brokerage that's going to provide those to you if you can. That way you're not going to be locked into these long-term monthly fees, which undoubtedly they hurt agents.
You feel like you're making some headway with your book?
We are. I'm getting people are buying it. People are talking to me about it. I'm getting emails, which is exciting. I've done some stuff with Paperless Pipeline, who's a big vendor. Did a nice podcast with them, and that's getting some traffic. And then along with you guys, which is very exciting for us. I think it's just a matter of agents realizing they need more information instead of just jumping in and letting everybody come at them. This gives them really a guideline. And if an agent's been in the business for 20 years and they're just not doing the volume they want, reading this book will give them a quick step-by-step process on how to start creating that volume again.
Great. Thank you so much.
You bet. Nice talking to you.
H. Craig Plantz, Systematic Approach, a step-by-step guide to a profitable real estate practice from license to brokerage. You may have heard about the COVID outbreak at San Quentin Prison when almost 3,000 prisoners and staff were infected. 30 people died. A California judge ruled prison officials inflicted cruel and unusual punishment, and Justin Cook was a witness. Cook was a successful technical architect at the time. He landed in jail on an assault charge, surrounded by what he describes as murderers, serial killers, and rats. He recounts hunger strikes, malnutrition, and chaos in the hope of convincing readers to confront the realities of mass incarceration and the injustices within America's penal system. So, the name of his book, Infectious Injustice, the true story of survival and loss against corruption, the COVID-19 disaster inside San Quentin, and the dumpster fire that is known as mass incarceration. Justin, take us from the top.
The process of the book starts with the beginning of kind of having the life of really excess, right? Where living a system where you're kind of you have a large income and it comes in with quite a large amount of money, and then that's burned pretty quickly, and then how that kind of deviates and deteriorates into a life where things can go wrong, right? So the beginning of the book really talks about addiction and alcohol use and items like that, and then it devolves when the kind of peak of the story is that the individual ends up going to getting in trouble for something that he's not supposed to be in trouble for. So it's a very interesting beginning, but it really kind of cements the story around like the possibilities when you kind of level out addiction and items start happening that you don't want to happen.
What was your addiction?
So it's specifically around alcoholism, but really it's really more focused around chaos. So,
all right. So you were an architect. And
correct.
you were making a lot of money, and your lifestyle sounds like it's spun out of control as a result of alcoholism.
Correct.
Then what happened?
There was an incident with aggravated assault, and then it ended up landing into a case where I ended up being involved in the legal system more than I wanted to be. So what happens is the book really starts off when COVID hit. And it shows kind of the nightmare around the idea of incarceration during that time, and how eventually through the different channels, COVID was used in a negative way, and it was weaponized.
Were you unjustly incarcerated? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, and then it was there for years, and that was really the issue, right? Is that the derailment and the weaponization of the specific virus to stop the due process is really what happened. They would leverage the virus to kind of exact justice. So it was used and put into different areas. So it was migrated around, people were shifted, and they leveraged it to kind of create and glorify the epidemic.
And there are things that happen to you in jail.
Correct, and that's really what the meat of the story is about. That's kind of what everything's about, and it's really about the bifurcation between the idea of what is right and wrong, and really the understanding of the rules behind the rules, and then really about camaraderie, brotherhood, and kind of the basis around that. So what was really kind of comes down to the donations, the methodology behind the kind of the reflection that we have as a community and society on the penal community, and then how it really actually goes down.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yes. During one specific time, all clothes and all food were taken away as punishment.
All clothes and all food?
Correct. Were taken away as punishment.
So you're naked in your cell?
Correct. The idea was to get the individual sicker so they would die. And by the way, this specific incident was not only nationally publicized, but there was people outside protesting it.
And did anything happen?
Absolutely nothing, which is why the book is written. So everything's covered up very, very well and shut down very, very quietly. And that's really what I had a problem with, which is why this is published. Just because there's such an adamant disregard and just a topology where this belief that certain people don't deserve to have lives, and I wasn't okay with that. So that's why it's written.
Can you give me another example of the way you were treated?
Yeah. Right, really, I think it was March 2020, right when COVID really hit. And there was a large people were starting to understand what it was. They weren't really sure. The medical professionals brought in people with COVID and then put fans on to spread the virus in the units with airflow. So they leveraged airflow and putting the sick people in different buildings to spread it on purpose. So it's basically known as weaponizing it. It was really sad. Nobody knows about that, and it was very quiet and very hidden, and that's why the book is written. And the best part about the book is, if you see, I'll go through and I interview different people. I talk to them, and they're really drilling home that they want this story heard and shared out there, and that's the purpose of it.
How long were you behind bars?
2 years.
And when did you get out?
2021.
Since then, you've been putting this book together?
Yeah, so the entire thing it's structured and written in there. So it's done a very interesting way, because what I did is I ended up journaling all of it. So it's done on a daily standpoint. So nothing is forgotten or ever kind of erased, which is great. And then once I got out, that's where I really put the time in to editing it and cleaning it up. And then, yeah, it was really interesting, because as soon as it came out, it was a hit really quickly. If you think of it, Amazon #1 bestseller very quickly. And the messaging there was really important to me. So, luckily it did really well when it hit the floor running.
Has anybody picked up on the book?
There's a large number of different stories out there, and I've done different interviews and different items on it. So yeah, they definitely have picked up on it. And there's definitely been a reaction, which is not positive. But it's from the community who obviously wants to keep this quiet. But the truth is that the messaging, which is about strength, endurance, hope, and really about understanding the value of human life regardless, is so important to me. And that's really what I drive home at the end of the book. So that's really what comes out and what makes the story so powerful.
So where do we go from here with this?
So really what I'm doing is that all the profits from the book are funded and are sourced into a nonprofit. So it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and that nonprofit focuses on helping other people write and helping other people's stories be heard. So that's really the next step for me, is helping others create works of art and works like this. Every dime of the revenue from the books goes to.
What do you do with yourself now? You got out of jail, and what did you end up doing?
So I on top of obviously the writing, I own my own IT consulting company as well. So I've definitely hit the ground running, and it's been focusing on kind of just trying to make enough funds to keep the writing going. But really my passion is the writing. The other things just tend to be, side gigs, side influences to keep the money coming in. But this is my true passion, and this is what I'd want to do forever. That's one thing that I drive home in there is no matter regardless of what it is, when you're in a situation like that, you have to find your passion. And passion for me is that writing. So it's really important to find that passion in your life.
All right. Justin, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Justin Cook, author of Infectious Injustice. Finally, Bryan Laurence is a sci-fi fan who started his first book when he was in college a decade ago. And thanks to COVID, he was finally able to finish this new take on an old classic entitled New Warriors of Endos. Now, from reading your synopsis, I'm going to say you were into video games as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on video games. I'm kind of old school. So for me, it was like old school Nintendo.
Yes.
But they had a lot of creative storylines,
Yes.
and that just kind of, that just sort of grew. Like video games usually have pretty vibrant storylines, sometimes even better than movies.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of that. I'm kind of an 80s baby, so it's sort of 80s era action type stuff. I grew up, loved reading Stephen King. And, comic books, have sort of an influence there. So, yeah, all these sort of different creative things in the background, you could say, influence me.
So, where did this story come from?
It's very much inspired by The Wizard of Oz, which is like one of my favorite stories of all time. It's kind of like a dark, sort of adult version of it. And, I sort of thought, like, well, what would this look like if it was, instead of this sort of happy, colorful world, where it was this sort of darkened, war-torn version. And I just sort of kind of went from there. I was like, let's just explore what these characters are and see what they are. And that's kind of the influence that made me want to bring it about. I just felt like these characters were pretty interesting. And if I liked them, maybe somebody else might like them. So,
Like I'm reading your synopsis. Sergeant Dee Contreras leads a SWAT team into a drug house occupied by militia terrorists who force her and her officers into a gunfight. And then there's a tornado, during a gun battle, and she's unconscious. And then she wakes up and finds herself not in Oz, but an apocalyptic wasteland of war and death. I mean, this is no yellow brick road, sir.
yeah, no, it's not. It's dark, and there's it's kind of an adrenaline fueled ride in a sense, as one person put it when they looked through it. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what interests me, and yeah, I mean there is some social commentary in there, but for the most part, it's really character driven, and really just about sort of this person's world, this protagonist's world, Dee Contreras.
What happens to Dee?
As you can imagine, it kind of follows sort of the synopsis of like the structure of what you would expect from the Wizard of Oz. She meets this powerful knight, Seraditis, who imparts onto her the boots of power, sends her on a quest to follow the road of blood to Soldier City to meet the warlord, who has the power to send her back to her team. The overall, if there is a message, it's really like standing up for and fulfilling your oath to defend and protect. That's what you swore to, protect in terms of your oath. And in her case, it's like, it's her oath to the Constitution. It's her oath to her fellow officers. She's very driven to like get back to them because she feels like responsible. So that's kind of like the driving force. She wants to get back to her team. And as she's on her way to this place, in order to get back there, she comes across 3 powerful warriors, all of them in sort of different states of disarray. And she helps to save them. And because they all are bound by a warrior's oath to, return the favor, they all end up, in a sense, becoming her new team in this world to help her get back.
Nice. How you telling people about this?
Well, I mean, just kind of like the way I explained it to you. I mean, people ask questions, and I just sort of go through it. I mean, there's no real one way to explain it because people have different questions about it, so it's kind of like different pursuits to get to the same place, this to me seems like the skeleton of like something really special. So you could move forward. You could make a movie out of it. You could make a TV show out of it. You could make a comic book series out of it if, with the right artist. Feels like the characters are vibrant enough that they can sort of cross, any sort of genre lines or whatnot in order to grab people. And that's one of the things that sort of drives me to kind of, push with this.
Yeah, but in terms of getting the word out, are you letting people know about this?
I mean, just through personal channels that I know. For me, it's just to take the next step is to try to just explain to as many people, or interested in the premise of the story, the structure of of what these characters have to offer, and try to entice more and more people to be interested in looking at the story. I did actually went to the library that I sat down and wrote a lot of this about, and when I got some of the free copies, I offered them a copy as well. But I have reached out to people who have expressed interest and wanted to promote the story on my behalf, and gotten them some promotional copies and tried to just further the word out there.
I mean, 10 years, it had to feel really good to get this thing wrapped up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you put something on the shelf for that long, and then you come back to it, and you're like, well, this has been taking too long, and obviously the pandemic was one of those times where you just sort of stop and take a look at what's going on and what you want to do, and that was an opportunity, felt like, for me to really try to put the pedal to the floor and get it done. I mean, I didn't realize how hard it is to actually write a story. You figure you're sitting in front of a computer, just words on a screen, just belt it out and there you go, if you've got an idea. But the thing is that it's just so much more work involved than that. It's in many ways it is very much a grind. So yeah, I was very happy to get it in. Even now it's more like relief, like I'm done.
Right. Bryan, thanks so much for talking to me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for calling.
Bryan Laurence, author of New Warriors of Endos. We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton-Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.